Hi everyone. By the end of this video, we will understand the income tax system, cost of living, and insights into savings from your income in the US. This info is crucial for you to first understand your return on investment of living away from your friends and family, second, your ROI on your master's degree, third, your ROI on those 2 years of education where you could have earned working in your home country, and finally, it contributes to the decision of whether you plan to study, work, and live in the US. Coming to the tax system, there are obviously multiple types of taxes, including sales tax, property tax, income tax, etc. For this video, we will only talk about taxes related to your salary, that is primarily the income tax and the FICA taxes. Before we jump into the details of these two types of taxes, let's first understand how the taxation works in the US. And to understand how taxation works, we need to first understand the governmental structure briefly. The governance system of the US is more or less similar to the Indian governance system. Similar to the central government of India, the US also has a central government called the federal government. The federal government in the US functions similarly to how the central government in India functions. And similar to all governments of India, each state in the US also has its own government. So for tax purposes, especially income tax purposes, both federal and state governments in the US deduct some portion of your income. Now let's understand the income tax system with the help of a simple example. Let's assume the gross income from the full-time job was $150,000 for the year of 2023. I want to make it clear that the gross income can contain profits from your investments. It can also have some deductions too. But we're keeping the example very simple for understanding. Let's see how much federal tax and state tax we would have to pay for the year of 2023. These are the federal tax brackets for 2023 for a person who is not married. These tax brackets are a type of progressive tax system. So as per this chart, basically, if you earn only less than $11,000 in 2023, you will only pay 10%. And if you earn, let's say, $40,000 in 2023, you will pay 10% on your $11,000, which is equal to $1,100 plus 12% on your remaining $29,000. So federal tax can be as low as 10% and can be as high as 37% for the income that you earn over $579,000. So for our example of $150,000, our maximum marginal tax bracket is 24%, but our actual tax percent will be significantly low. So our total tax will be $16,290 plus $150,000 minus $95,375 into 0.24, which gives us $29,400. The actual overall tax percent for $150,000 comes to be total tax over total income, which gives us 19.6% only. So we have learned so far that around 20% of our total income was federal tax. Let's cover the state income tax now. State taxes vary a lot in the US. Most states which have a state tax greater than zero also have progressive taxes, just like the marginal tax brackets of the federal income tax. This graph shows us the maximum tax bracket for each state. States like Washington, Texas, Nevada, Florida all have 0% state income tax, which is great. And unfortunately, states like California, New York, DC are some of the highest income tax charging states. Now let's get back to our example. If you earn that $150,000 annual income in LA, which is in California, you would be charged $10,600 as per California's 2023 income tax. This leads your total taxes to be $29,400 into $10,600, which equals to $40,000. So for 2023, you will pay $40,000 over $150,000 into 100, which gives us 26.67% of your income for taxes. But if you earn this, let's say in Seattle, Washington, or Austin, Texas, you would only be paying 19.6% of your income for taxes, as there is no state tax. These income taxes are far, far fewer than what you have to pay in countries like Canada or India. There's also another component to the overall income taxes, which are FICA taxes. These taxes provide benefits for retired people, disabled, and even children. You don't even have to pay these taxes till you are on an F1 visa. So basically, if you get your H1B at the last chance, for the first 3 years of working full-time, you don't even have to worry about these taxes. Coming back to FICA taxes, they are further divided into Social Security and Medicare tax. Social Security is 6.2% of your gross income, up to $168,600 as of 2024. So, if your income is higher than this amount, then for that additional amount, there is no Social Security tax. Medicare is 1.45% on your gross income, up to $200,000, and then 0.9% on the rest of the income. So let's calculate the final taxes if you're on an employment visa like H-1B, O-1, L-1, or even green card, or as a US citizen. In Texas, for $150,000, your total tax comes to be around 27%. In California, for the same $150,000, your total tax comes to be around 34%. Let's also take another example of a salary of $300,000. Remember again, these don't include any deductions from your retirement funds, healthcare funds, etc. If they were included, it can further reduce your taxable income to as low as $250,000. Obviously, it depends on your contributions and plans offered by the companies. For $300,000, federal tax for 2023 is at 24%. So if you are on a student visa, probably in your third year and earning $300,000, you will pay a total of 24% federal tax. And if you're living in Seattle, then there will be zero state tax. So your total tax will be 24% only for such a high income. And if you are living in San Jose, California, which is in the Bay Area, then there will be 9% tax. So your total tax then becomes 33%. If let's say you're on an employment visa, your FICA taxes will add another 5% to the federal tax. So your total federal tax will be 29%. And if you're working in Austin, there you will have state tax as zero. So your total tax will be 29% only. But with the same salary in California, your state tax will be 9% more, making your final tax to be 37%. So we have seen how the tax on the same $150,000 can range from as low as 20% to as high as 34%. And for the $300,000, tax can range from as low as 24% to as high as 37%. But from this tax discussion, we cannot conclude that living in Texas or Washington state is always better than Georgia, New York, or California, for example, where you will have to pay the state tax. Now, why do I say that? As we discussed in the salaries video, the minimum wage varies from state to state. Similarly, the salaries people get for the same position, even in the same company, vary from state to state. Now let's see some real data for entry-level software engineer roles in different locations. Now, as you can see here, San Francisco salaries are almost $50,000 higher than that of Austin, while Seattle's salaries are much closer to that of San Francisco. So if we just look at the pre-tax salaries, San Francisco is the best. But if we look at the post-tax salaries, in these cases, Seattle is probably the better choice for majority of situations. Stopping at after-tax salaries is not enough. We need to also understand the cost of living in the area. Now let's see this map for an overview of cost of living across the US. We can see living in Texas, Georgia, and a lot of other Midwestern states is usually cheaper than living in coastal areas like California, Washington, and other densely populated areas like New York. So while Seattle seemed the best option above when we looked at the after-tax salaries, but when we include the cost of living and look at the net savings, Austin can join the party. And it comes really close to Seattle and in some cases becomes the best choice. Now I know everyone's situation is different and everyone's spending and living habits differ even from city to city. But we can still generalize a few things which more or less are accurate based on the online data and my personal experiences. If let's say you own a car, you will be spending around $1,000 on average per month. This amount also accounts for a high probability of you eating more outside since you now have a car, and spending more on activities outside. If you live by yourself, you will spend around $500 to $750 per month more on average than living in a shared 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. Your 1-bed, 1-bath expenses will account for $1,700 on average in Austin, $2,200 on average in Seattle, $2,800 on average in San Francisco. This includes rent, utilities per month also. Your monthly groceries and eating outside will account for $400 on average in Austin, $600 on average in Seattle, $700 in Bay Area. So with this in mind, let's see for a single person living in 1-bed, 1-bath apartment, how location, salary, and expenses can lead to the net savings. For San Francisco, we have $177,000 pre-tax salary, which is equal to $118,000 after tax salary. This also includes FICA taxes for calculation. So, your total take-home salary is around $10,000 monthly. Housing plus utils for one bed, one bath in SF is around $2,800 monthly. In SF, you don't even need a car. Public transport is actually pretty good enough. So around $200 monthly for commute is fine. Food expenses, including eating out and groceries, is around $700 monthly. And additional activities plus shopping plus traveling on average accounts for around $750 monthly. This includes yearly average of you traveling home, traveling within the US, doing shopping, buying gifts, etc. This can obviously range widely based on your lifestyle. More or less for a generalized case, as an immigrant in SF, you are able to save around $5.5 thousand of your salary monthly. Now, if you live in a shared 2-bed 2-bath apartment or 3-bed 3-bath or 2-bed 1-bath, you can save even further. If you buy a car, you will save even less. But you can reach this generalized net savings case by, let's say, having a car and saving on rent by sharing. Depending on your spending and lifestyle, you can save more or spend more. But you get the idea now. To sum up, you will be able to save 50% plus of your salary in San Francisco for most cases once you're on H-1B and save 60% plus on a student visa. Let's move to Austin now. We have $118,000 pre-tax salary, which is equal to $91,000 after-tax salary. This also includes the FICA taxes. Now this leads to monthly take-home salary of about $7.5 thousand. Housing including utils for one bed, one bath in Austin is around $1,700 monthly. In Austin's main city area, you honestly don't even need a car. Public transport is good enough. So around $100 monthly for commute is reasonable. Even commuting is cheaper in Austin. For food expenses including eating out and groceries, they can estimate around $400 monthly. Additional activities, shopping, traveling on average are around $750 monthly. This again includes yearly average of you traveling home, traveling within the US, doing shopping, buying gifts, spending on your girlfriend, etc. And again, this can obviously range widely based on your lifestyle. I don't know, maybe you're going to the 6th Street every weekend. But more or less for a generalized case, you're able to save around $4,500 of your monthly salary in this generalized case. You will be able to save 50% plus of your salary in Austin for most cases once you're on the H-1B and save 60% plus on a student visa. So if I compute the yearly savings as an entry level for generalized cases, it is $5,000 monthly for software engineering roles. That is $60,000 yearly, and that is 48 lakhs in INR. And salaries for software engineers almost double for mid-level roles. So you are able to save up to $1 crore per year starting your 3rd year. A very important note now. Even though I went through these generalized cases, take these numbers with a grain of salt. The most important takeaway from this is that savings are in your hands. Your lifestyle, your location, your salary, your company, your role, all contribute to it. You can end up saving just 20% of your yearly income or even 90% of your overall income in the US. Yes, you heard that right, 90%. Now I'll share my own personal story here to prove it to you. To give some context, I lived in Austin as a machine learning engineer at Amazon. And then I transitioned to an applied scientist role a year later. Also, an interesting fact about Amazon is that Amazon gives the same salaries to people in Seattle and Austin, although it has higher salaries for the same role in New York and San Francisco. Let's see the numbers now. My salary was $160,000 pre-tax for 2021-2022 year, including the sign-on, which is equivalent to $120,000 after tax. Now this is already way above the Austin salary that we discussed for 2024. You can see for yourself the possibilities. I was living in a spacious 1-bed 1-bath apartment on my own, in the middle of the city, with grocery stores, parks, public transport, gym, all of them nearby, and I paid $1,100, including the utilities, monthly. I spent $500 monthly on food because I preferred high quality food. My commute was just $50 for a monthly bus pass, which I also rarely used because office was not mandatory at that time. And you can imagine the monthly additional expenses to be around $750. That is the average. It includes my travel to India, shopping and other activities in Austin. I was easily able to make $7,500 monthly. That is 75% of my in-hand salary, leading to $90,000 yearly and 72 lakh in INR as a fresher with just bachelor's and master's and no experience. And while my lifestyle in the third year of me working full time now at TikTok has more or less remained the same, my yearly savings have more than doubled. The whole point of doing this deep dive analysis was to prove that once you start earning in USD here, the possibilities are endless. How to achieve these possibilities is not the goal here. The goal is for you to understand that there are the real possibilities of upgrading your and your family's life. And it's not like that only the top 5% get this. There are many good companies, there are many great jobs which can help you move your life to the next level. You know, more than 95% of people don't think outside their primary job. They mainly do basic passive investments in stock or buy a family house for themselves. But there are plenty of other opportunities along with your primary job that you can leverage in the US. And that is what I will be covering in the final video, the American Dream. I will see you there. Peace out.